Hi guys, Casey with the Hobbs Crew here today, and I am going to talk about teaching with Easter eggs, plastic ones. So I actually use Easter eggs year-round because it is like the perfect teaching tool, especially for little kids, but there's some ways you can adapt it for bigger kids too. So it's one of my favorite things because you can put these in the yard and your stuff won't get wet, especially if you're doing things like scavenger hunts and such. So I wanted to give you a list of ways that you can use these to teach the kiddos and make it fun. So we're going to start with the subject of math. So math, is obviously some of these are going to be for the littler kids, but math is a great way to teach patterns. So, and you can make it simple, just like have them build a simple pattern like this. You can make it more complicated, make them have them do it themselves. So patterns is one way. Another way is counting. So you can obviously have them just count the eggs as 1, 2, 3, 4. Or another thing I like to do is I like to put beans inside of the egg, or you can use like little rocks or pebbles, or if there's something else that you like, put them inside the eggs and then have the kiddo find it and then get the items out and count them. So I like to do that too. Math drills, so what I like to do is I like to have math drills, and I just take little index cards, and index cards seem to hold up a little better, and I just cut strips, and I put things like 4 times 3 if we're learning multiplication, and then I'll fold it up and put it in there, and then the job of the child is to go find it. Now, a real quick tip, if you have multiple children who are looking for these, assign them a color. So, for instance, Alex, we color code our children anyways because it's easier to keep track of them and the stuff that they own. So Alex, let's say, would be blue. So if he's going to be doing all the blue eggs, and so he would be needing to master his multiplication, so I would put multiplication in his. Now, let's say Georgie, she's learning to recognize numbers. So I might just write numbers on there or put the beans in for her and let her find those. Randa is purple. I would put addition or subtraction facts on there and let her try to find those. So that's kind of how I do the math drills. Learning what a dozen is. So this is a great way to learn a dozen. So you put a dozen eggs, and dozen means 12. And you can do all kinds of things. You can take a permanent marker and write on the outside 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 12, and have them throw them out and then have them go and collect theirs. When all my middles, because I have 7 children, and my middle children are stair steps, so we have an 8, 2 10-year-olds, and soon to be 11-year-old. And so whenever they were learning their numbers, I would have them each have their own color, and I wrote the numbers on them, and then I just scattered all through the floor, all through the living floor, and they'd each have their own little dozen, and they'd go and they put them in order. So Bella's color at that time was pink, and so she'd get all the pink eggs and she'd put them in order, and then so on and so forth. So that was a lot of fun, and that's kind of how they actually learned at that point that there was a dozen, and it stuck with them forever. So. Colors, obviously Georgie's 3. She's already knows most of her colors, but practicing that, so you get all kinds of colors and you say, go find me a yellow egg, and so she runs off to go find a yellow egg, so that works out really well. So one of my favorite things to do is to put money just in the eggs. I have pretend money coins in there, and I just put them in the eggs, and I might put a couple in there. And then I'll throw them in the yard, and then they need to try to make $1. So they'll go find a couple of eggs and make $1. So they'll have to learn how to count change in order to make $1. So that's another one of the things that we like to do. So moving on to language arts. So you could take your paper and whatever you're learning, whatever topic that you're learning about, you could write a riddle about it and have them find the riddle. You could even have them have different, like the riddle and then clues written in different eggs so they could go find the riddle. You could have this as a team game or as an individual. Everybody finds their own color. Scavenger hunts. Okay, these are So much fun. So you could have them put your clues inside your eggs and have, find the purple egg for your next clue, that sort of thing. Or you could even have them solve a clue that says the color of the egg or the location of the egg, whatever. The scavenger hunts can be anything that you want to design it to be, and that will go with your lesson. Sequencing a story. So like you read them a story, let's say a simple little story, and then you put in the eggs, I would write, or sometimes I just print them off from my computer, the facts of the story. So step one was this person did this, then they did this, then they did this. You hide each part of that in one egg, and then you hide the eggs. And then once they find the egg, then they have to put the story in order. Writing prompts. Now, there's just something about picking an egg that kids love. They don't know exactly what they're picking. And so if you put a writing prompt in an egg, you could, then they pick the egg and have to write a story about that prompt. You could even make it more exciting by saying, okay, so we're going to, your first egg you're going to pick is you're going to pick the subject of your story. Then the second egg you're going to pick is you're going to pick what your subject does, and then have them kind of piece their story based upon the eggs they pick from your bag. Add a couple of adjectives into your story, or add an adverb into your story. So you could do your parts of speech. It's really up to you. Compound words. So you could actually put, and there are probably some freebie printables out there of compound words that would fit in here. And so you would put here like pan and cake. Okay, so pan would go in here, cake would go in here. And they would have to, when they found they could make as many compound words as they did out of their eggs. You could even just do a bunch of the eggs and give them a different, like everybody gets 10 eggs, and they open their eggs and try to see how many compound words they can make legitimately out of those eggs. Another thing is alphabetizing words. So you could have them figure out, everybody just put random words, write them on, or print them off, put them in your eggs, and then hide them and have them go look for them. And then when they get back, they need to alphabetize the words that were in their eggs. Another thing is spelling. For spelling, you can take it, there are spelling words, there's spelling word list, and spell it correctly and then spell it incorrectly. And they need to tell you whether the word is spelled correctly or incorrectly. And so that one's a fun one. Moving on to music. One year what we did was we put the beans inside the egg. And this was when they were littler. Put the beans inside the egg, and then we attached it to a spoon with some tape, and it made shakers. And then we sang our songs, whatever songs that we were learning at that point. We sang them, and they played their shakers with that. We also did some parades around the house with those shakers, and we would do games like freeze dance. So they would be able to shake their spoons, and when I would stop the music and say freeze, they'd have to freeze themselves and their spoons. So another thing is if they're trying to memorize their Bible memory verse, putting one phrase or one word, depending how long the verse is, in here, and then they need to go find it and then put it in order. So for instance, for God so loved the world, so you put for God so loved the world, and then maybe that he gave his only son, and depending on the child's age is how hard I'd make it. So if I was doing this for my middles, I would probably only put 2 words on each one and let them go and try to figure that out. So social studies would be have them hide their own egg, and then have them draw a map, a treasure map, to send a sibling or a parent or a grandparent or somebody to go find their egg. Kids love to do this. And one of the things that we have done is we have just I've had them map our house and the outside, map it. Then we put it in a dry erase sheet, and then they can mark it where they hit it, and then with a dry erase marker, and then they would go and give it to their sibling, and then everybody would find somebody else's egg. So there's just something about it that they really love, and they're learning to write. They're learning to read a map, so it works out well. It may not be to scale, but hey, they get the gist of it. PE, okay, so there's tons of ways you can add activity. Just them simply running around the yard is a great way to do it, or running around the house. If I scattered it through the living room, it's a great way to just get some movement into their day. But you could put little exercises in here, like 10 jumping jacks, and whatever they pick, they have to do. Or the group needs to do. So everybody gets a turn to pick, and everybody does 10 jumping jacks. And then you could even put in like a mystery one, like the golden egg can be, whatever that person decides. Toss the egg. So these things work really well. And I'll just get like a laundry basket, line it up, and when they answer it's usually I use it as a review game. When they answer the question, I have them toss the egg into the basket and try to get it in the basket. To make it more complicated for older kids, I will have 3 baskets set up, and they'll have probably points on them, so 50, 100, 200, and whatever basket they make it in, they get that many points. And so it puts a little bit of at least some competition into it. Another thing is to sort the eggs. So sort them based upon color, especially for our little ones, so they kind of understand that this orange goes here and turquoise goes here, and pink goes in this basket. So you could sort all different colors. You could draw little shapes on here and have them sort based upon the shapes. Whatever area that they need help with, that's what you could do. So creating an obstacle course and having them bounce and collect eggs as they go through, and having to hang on to those eggs as they go through the obstacle course. And kids come up with obstacle courses on their own wonderfully. It isn't even something that you need to do. You just have them go create their own obstacle course, but then add in at every point you need to pick up an egg, and then they have to complete the obstacle course by holding on to all their eggs. You could even make it fun by they have to do certain things by putting this on a spoon, the traditional egg spoon, but make it more interesting. So, and then last but not least, we putting baking soda in an egg and adding vinegar and seeing what happens is a lot of fun. With the little ones, I take a container like this, and I'll open my eggs up, and I'll put baking soda in one side, and then let them pour the vinegar on, and they get to see it happen. And sometimes with the different colors of eggs, it helps out too. We've added ice to this, and so it becomes very sensory as they learn what happens with baking soda and vinegar. So they like to see the eruptions, and they get to do it. So it's a lot of fun. So that is some of the ways that I use Easter eggs. I always stock up at Easter time for Easter eggs because it is something that I can use year round, and you can put them in the yard. It protects it from the elements, and you can organize the kids so someone doesn't find the same thing twice. So anyways, I hope this helps you, and we will talk soon. Thanks.
Hey YouTube, I'm on a mission to get you to subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Bye.